Hi everyone, it's Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'll be creating a super quick and easy, super cute shaker card with accents of pink. The products that I'll be using are the Spirited Sentiment stamp set, the Star Galaxy stencil, Sprinkles Scalloped Rectangle die set. I'll also be using the Blushing Booze confetti mix from This Calls for Confetti. And I did end up bringing a few other things in, but I'll go over that as I get through the video. I really wanted my little shaker window to be quite the focal point, so I decided for my background to go with softer colors. And instead of images, I decided just to pull one of the sentiments from the Spirited Sentiments stamp set and stamp that all over the background of my cardstock. I started out with a piece of cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I used dried marigold distress ink. When I started stamping the sentiment, I made sure to have it hang off the edge all the way around, and I tried to stagger the sentiment so it wasn't too symmetrical. After I had the sentiment stamped all over the front of that panel, I decided to add some splatter, so I used some light pink ink and a paintbrush, and then decided to add in some black splatter as well. I did let that dry completely before I brought in the Star Galaxy stencil, and I used gold metallic ink and a sponge just to have a subtle background with those stars. I wanted my background to be there, but again, I didn't want it to overshadow my little shaker window. I used the Sprinkles Scallops rectangle dies to create my frame, and I die cut that from black cardstock. Then I adhered a piece of acetate to the back side of that. And once I had that adhered to the black frame, I used some black foam tape around the edges. I made sure to have a very tight contact with that foam tape to make sure that none of my shaker bits would fall out. I did use my anti-static powder tool on the pieces of acetate just to keep my shaker bits from sticking to the acetate. Once I had my little window filled with my little Blushing Booze confetti mix, I removed the release paper from the foam tape, and then I added another piece of acetate to the back just to hold everything in place, and that way it would be much easier to adhere that to the front of my card. I die cut a piece of black cardstock using the largest die from the Sprinkle Scalloped Rectangle die set because it had a really pretty scalloped edge around it, and then I trimmed down my stamped background so that there would just be the smallest little black border. I decided to have a top folding A2 size pink note card so that it would bring out the pink that I splattered on the background as well as my little pink ghosts in my shaker element. Once I had all the pieces for my card base put together, I applied score tape to the back of my little shaker window, removed the release paper, and then just added that right to the front of my card. Next, I stamped 2 of the little ghosties from the Spirited Sentiments stamp set and did very simple coloring. I wanted to highlight the little pleats at the bottom of the little ghosties, so I used a C1 marker and just did tiny little flick marks on the areas where the stamped image kind of dipped down a little bit because that's where the shadows would be. And then I blended that out really quickly with a C0 marker. I decided to fussy cut them out. And a couple of tricks and tips when it comes to fussy cutting. You want to make sure that you turn the cardstock more than the scissors. And for these 2 images, I cut pretty close to the actual stamped line because I didn't want to have that white halo around them. And then once I was done cutting them out, I used a black felt tip marker around the outer edge just to clean up any of the rough edges that I had from fussy cutting them. Off camera, I had stamped the sentiment Happy Boo Day using the You're My Boo stamp set, and I did some heat embossing on black cardstock and ran it through my die cut machine with the Simple Strips die set. I adhered that to the front of my card, and then I used liquid glue to adhere my little ghosties to the front. And once I had those little ghosties adhered, I thought that I needed to add just a little more sparkle to the background. So I pulled out my Eclipse Sparkle Gems, also from This Calls for Confetti, and just added 3 of those tiny little gems up in the top left corner, and then I added 3 more in the bottom corner. And that's it. That finishes up my card for today. I'll be sure to have all of the products that I used listed in the description box below for you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not yet subscribed, we'd love it if you would. And don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.